Hello and welcome everyone to the first new webinar of the new year. It's our Pro Series webinar, Cleaning Up Your Account. It's a new year. Let's make sure that we have your account operating just like it's brand new. Make sure we're operating as efficiently as possible. And we can learn all these tips and tricks in this webinar today. So, one of the first things that we'll be going over is archiving. Now, archiving removes the information from your active screen or from one of your auto-populated lists and moves it over to the archive screen while still keeping that information inside of your ServeManager account. Well, why don't we delete? Well, the reason that we don't delete for certain cases and for certain instances inside of ServeManager, we don't want to delete because deleting would change the information that's being recorded inside of your jobs. So when we archive, we're able to keep those jobs the same. We're just going to be removing this unnecessary information that may be getting in your way. Now, let me show you what I mean here. So first, we're going to start with our jobs. So we'll start over here on our job screen. As you can see, I got quite a few listing of jobs here on my job screen. Not all of these I'm currently working on. So if I would like to archive some jobs, we can go about it in two ways. One, I could click on the job itself, and then I could click on the Archive Job button. And as you can see, it's now archived. And when I go back to jobs, it will no longer be on this list, but if I select archived up here, it'll be on our archived list. So we can still have this information. We could still go back and access it. It just won't be here on our active screen, intermixed with all the other jobs that we're currently working on. Another way that we can archive jobs would be to select these white boxes next to the job number. Then we can use our Mass Options pull-down menu, and we could select Archive Jobs. It'll ask if we'd like to archive these selected jobs. Pressing the Archive Job button removes them from our job screen, places them over onto our archive screen. Another thing that we can archive would be court cases. So the reason that you might want to archive court cases is, let's say that we're entering in a job right now. And we get down to our court case section, and I enter 1, 2, 3. Then it generates this auto-populated list for us with all of these entries. Well, let's say some of these entries, this is all old information. We no longer need this information on this populated list. Well, we can archive that. The way that we'd archive that is we go over to court cases. Right here, we'll select it from the left-hand bar, and then we'll select the case in question, like this one. We'll open it up, and then you'll see here in the upper right-hand corner, we can archive this court case right here. Then when we go back to our court case screen, we can access that information by selecting our archive box, and our court case will be listed there. Now, court locations works very similarly. So when we go down here to court locations, I could type in a couple letters here, such as this one. I have a very, very long name for our court case, or court case location. So if I'd like to get rid of this entry, first I'll select court cases, then I'll select the courts tab, then I'll select that court case name in question, and I'll select the Archive Court button. So now this will no longer appear on our auto-populated list when we go and we enter in our court locations. The next thing that we can go over archiving would be employees. Now, archive employees, we'll first select my account, and then we'll go over to employees. Now, archiving employees is valuable if you no longer have an employee working for your company If you don't want somebody listed, if you want to eliminate their access, if you want to make sure that they're not receiving emails anymore, this archiving an employee will solve this for you. So we can go in here, archive an employee. We'll select my account, then the employees tab. We'll select an employee in question, and then we'll select the archive employee. It will give you a warning saying that this will disable the employee and log them out. When we press OK, this will then archive the employee, and then they'll be listed on our archive screen. The next thing that we can also archive would be job routes. So to get there, I'll select jobs and then the routes tab. So whenever we generate a route, the oldest routes will populate at the top of the list, while the newest routes will populate at the bottom. To make sure that the routes that you need are right on the page that you need, we can archive these routes. The way that we do so is that we'll just select the route number, and then we'll select Archive Map Route. Then when we go back to our routes page, all of our active ones are now listed here. And then to access archived routes, I just change the filter to archived. Now, the last thing I'd like to show you on archiving would be archiving companies. So to get there, I'll select the companies, and this will take us to our client and contractor screen. They'll all be listed here. So a couple things to know about archiving a company. First, we could select an entry, and we could select archive the company here. But let's say that you have two different instances of the same company, and you would like to consolidate all those jobs into one company, and then we can archive the other. So for that instance, it depends on if it's a client or a contractor. Now for contractors and clients, they'll both follow this process. You'll select the company, then you'll select the jobs tab here, and that will take you to this screen. Now for contractors, you're able to select all of these jobs, use this mask option pull-down menu, and then use your assign jobs to server. Here we can select contractor, we can enter in the correct company name, and then we're able to assign the jobs. And then these jobs would be listed into the correct company's account, and they won't be listed in the erroneous account. And then once all of these jobs have been reassigned, you could then archive the contractor. Now for clients, we don't have a mass reassign jobs for clients. The way that we would have to do that would we open up the job by selecting the job number. And then we would select edit. And then in this edit screen, we'll remove the client. We'll type in the correct instance of the client's name, and then we'll update. When we update, this job would then be assigned to the correct instance of that client. And then once all of those jobs are complete, you could then archive your company client. Now, there's other information that may auto-populate for you while you're entering in a job. Some of this information may be a little old and you no longer need it. So things such as plaintiffs, defendants, document titles, and frequently served recipients, all of that information can be edited as well. And we'll do that inside of our settings. So to get there, we'll select my account and then the settings tab. Here we'll scroll down to our autocomplete fields. Here we can manage our autocomplete fields, and we can adjust and either edit or delete these autocomplete fields. So because this information is what is entered into a job, we can delete this information and it won't affect any sort of previously entered in job information. Now going forward, these won't be options for you to select as an autocomplete if we delete them, but they won't be on your list anymore. and we can clear out all of your extraneous and unnecessary information. So to do so, for defendants, document titles, and plaintiffs, they'll all be here on your autocomplete field screen. We can select the field that we'd like to delete, and then we can press the delete button. Let's say that you also have a defendant that's listed on all of your jobs. Well, you could also set them as a default, and then this defendant would always be listed on all new jobs going forward. And we could do the same with document titles. If you have a document title that appears on all of your jobs, you can set it as default. If you no longer want to use a document title, you can then delete that as well. And then plaintiffs, once again, same thing. We can set it as default, and then we can delete it if we need to delete it. And then the last thing I'd like to show you would be recipients. Once again, selecting my account, the settings tab. We can go to the recipients we can manage. And here we store our frequently used recipients. So if you have somebody that you're frequently serving, you can save them here as a new recipient. And if you have an old recipient that you're no longer serving, you can delete them from that list by selecting that recipient and then selecting delete. If it's a default recipient on all new jobs, you can click this box, and then every new job going forward will have this recipient assigned. So if you're able to go through and archive what you need to archive, and then delete these specific setting things for you to delete, entering in your job information will then become easier because we're removing all that extraneous information. Of course, you can add different recipients or add different document titles, plaintiffs, defendants here by managing and adding new instances as well. And then the same with your companies and employees. You can enter in new ones as well. And then we can archive the ones that you're no longer using to just remove that information from your active screens. Well, folks, that is our ServeManager Pro Series, Cleaning Up Your Account webinar. Hopefully this was informative for you. If you folks have any sort of questions whatsoever, feel free to reach on out to us over at help@servemanager.com. That's HELP@servemanager.com. Thanks a bunch for watching, and take care and have a great rest of your day.